Yo everybody, it's Team Dad Gaming back with another video, and today we got part 13 of our Reds franchise, coming off of a wild card series loss on a walk-off. They walked us off, and we're here in the postseason, and it's time to try to get an upgrade on this team, and one of the upgrades we need is a big power bat. Specifically a righty power bat. We have a lot of lefties in the lineup, so I'm looking for a righty hitter, mainly a DH versus both sides, and a righty, first baseman versus both sides. Plus, I also want to get someone to take over Nick Senzel's spot and maybe send him down for a year. I said Nick Senzel, I meant Josh Lowe. He just hasn't really played the ways I expected, so I think a year in the minors could really do him some good. Um, but that's like the least of the concerns for real. Uh, Versus lefties were good, but the main thing I want to look for is like you guys know, a righty hitter for both sides. Uh, at first, so Sam Huff doesn't have to play it. Same with DH, and then also a second baseman versus lefties, because Luis Garcia had a crazy good year. Yes, came up from the minors, played great, but I don't have faith in him to be consistent versus lefties. I do have faith in him versus righties, but not lefties. So that's what we're gonna try to do. And pitching, we don't really have to touch. We got Nick Lodolo back from injury, and that's big. It's really big. The only thing I'm really worried about is that I have three lefty starters, so I've considered maybe moving Paul over to the long reliever, maybe trading Tony, but he's just been too good to get rid of. A mid 3 ERA both years and over 100 innings. Like he's been great. So I just really don't want to get rid of him. The main arm I am worried about in the bullpen is Alexis Diaz, who had 10 blown saves this year, which ended up in a negative WAR because of it. So Lucas Sims is gonna get the new closer position. He's been amazing, and we actually signed him to an extension in the middle of the year for 3 years, 3 years, $21 million, and we're hoping we can see this again. You know, um, Up and down career, but he's been great the past few years, and we're hoping to see more of that. So I think Alexis Diaz in the um, setup role might be good. That's what I'm hoping. We decided to pick up the option on Lopez. We denied the option on Austin Hayes. Austin Hayes. Austin Meadows. My bad. Yeah, you see him right here. Not that he had a bad year, but we can always go back to him. But if we can get better, I wanna. He was okay. I don't want okay. I want good. I did already offer one person a deal, and that was Tim Anderson. I gave him a 1 year deal for 6 mil. He's coming off a good year, and I figured he could just be a good arm. I mean, not a good arm. Good hitter versus lefties. We're only gonna play him versus lefties, but even when someone's tired, he can play as a righty against righties because his numbers aren't bad against righties. But mainly that's why we're signing him, is to go against lefties. Um, One thing I am worried about is I don't really see a first baseman that I want to sign that I have faith in. Christian Walker is coming off a good year, but most of his years haven't been that good. And we want a righty hitter. Garrett Cooper looks great, but I don't want Garrett Cooper. I want someone who can be on the team for a year or two. You feel me? And it just feels like there isn't really anyone here. I mean, Paul Goldschmidt would be good, but he would be a shell of what he is now in a few years. I mean, not in a few years, by the end of the year. So there's that problem. And there's also a problem of DH and outfield, because I don't really see an outfielder that I could sign versus righties to play against righties that I have faith in, other than Austin Meadows, but I don't want him playing center field. And right field is Jake Fairley, and left field is Ian Happ, and I don't really want either of them playing center either. I want someone with good defense playing center. And the only person who really fits that is Cody Bellinger, but his offense is bad. He just hasn't been able to put it back together, sadly. So, that, like I said, that's the end of the road for that. It's not really a top priority to get a new center fieldman. If it happens, cool. If it doesn't, it is what it is. I mean, Tyler O'Neill could be an interesting one, but he does want a lot of money, and I wouldn't want to sign him for more than a year, and I'm not going to pay him that much. Juan Soto would be great, but I don't want to spend big money like that. Not like that. I'm not quite ready to spend money like that. As you can see, the highest paid player on the team is 10 mil. And I just don't really want to spend a huge portion of money like that. Um, but, we also have arbitration. When arbitration happens, we can look at players then. And that's really what I'm relying on when it comes to signing a first baseman. That's definitely more what I'm relying on. But I already have an idea of what DH I want. I already know who I want. And if we go over to trade, because it's going to be a trade, and we go over to left field, and we go to the White Sox, they have Eloy. And Eloy is coming off 2 great years, and I want Eloy to be our DH. Have him on a contract this year, next year, and even after that point, he's still fairly young, only 28. He'll be 29 by the end of the contract. I want him. I want him bad. So they need a second baseman, and they need a third baseman, and basically just infield completely. So Spencer Sayre is one guy I'm okay with getting rid with. He can play all across the infield. He's only 27. He hasn't necessarily put it together on our team, but you can see his attributes. He could be a good player versus lefties specifically. Like, his discipline and clutch isn't terrible. He could be good, so I'm okay throwing him in this trade. Like I said, it just hasn't worked out in Cincinnati, but I do really think he could be a solid player. I've debated when it comes to Elly De La Cruz and Nove Marte. I could trade either of them. 100% I'm not trading Elly. I want to give him, another year in the minors. He still has an option left, so we could use that option and, let him develop a bit more in the minors. Because I do see potential in him. And Nove, I see potential in him too. I do. But I think he is going to be a trade piece because we do have Elly and Gavin Lux. So I don't really see where Marty can fit in. But he's not going to be part of this trade at all. I thought about maybe throwing TJ Friedel in to the trade. He's been but this is someone we have playing versus lefties and someone I think can continue to develop into a good player and maybe even one day be a starter. But that day he's not today. And we still have Sam Haggerty, who's right now, he's the starting center fieldman for the lefties. So another name that stuck out to me was Austin Hendrick. He hasn't necessarily put it together on the team. See potential. He's only played 5 games in the majors. Once a top prospect in the Reds organization. Just hasn't really put it together. And, I think they could use that right fielder because you can see the White Sox really don't have anyone to look forward to when it comes to the outfield other than Robert. They don't really have anyone. They don't really have any arms or anybody to look forward. Carson Montgomery, Wes,
they got Bryson Scott, but what's he gonna do? Like he's not very good either. They really don't have anyone to look to, so I think it would just make sense with them trading off Eloy and kind of clearing house a little bit, and trying to get prospects back in return. And so we're also gonna throw in a pitcher. Like I've told you guys, I've debated trading certain pitchers so that we don't have so many lefties on the starting mound. But I am worried about Paul because yes, he did do good in you know the major league so far, but that's only 7 starts. 7 starts and 32 starts are two completely different things. They are. But I don't want to trade one of my starters. I have faith in my 5 starters, and I think they'll do good. And we have prospects to look forward to. So I'm not really tripping about getting rid of some. And so I'm okay with getting rid of Hobbs right here. He has a original pitch miss. Not a lot of people throw the palm ball. And I think in maybe 3 or 4 years, when he's around 22-ish, he could be a great pitcher for the White Sox. And I think this is a pretty fair trade. I do. We're getting a good power bat for this year and next year. They're getting a pitching prospect, a third baseman who hasn't necessarily put it together but has great hitting attributes versus lefties and can play all across the infield, and an outfielder that they desperately need. So we're going to make this trade, and we now have Eloy Jimenez, and he's going to get moved up in the lineup. Probably do something like that. I think that's pretty good. Maybe like that and then like that. Yeah. And, he'll back clean up and hopefully he'll be able to put up numbers like he has been his whole career. Eloy Jimenez, once part of the Chicago Cubs, got traded to the White Sox and now on the Cincinnati Reds. So now really all that's left is to look for a first baseman. And like I said, I'm gonna which I am kind of sad about because this year we had Jake Fraley DHing versus lefties, and you can see his stats aren't the best versus lefties, specifically his contact, but it does get significantly higher when he does get in clutch moments. And we did have some big moments with him against lefties this year where he played in 50 more games than last year. 50 more hits, 20 more runs, doubled the doubles, a good amount of home runs, great amount of RBIs and all that. On base percentage, amazing, but his average really dipped. But so that I'm a little like, damn, that sucks. But I'm okay with only playing him versus righties, like we did in the first year. It's not as big of a deal, in my opinion, that we are gonna be DHing him. Um, so we just got to move some things around. And our lineup will probably be something like this versus lefties. Maybe like that, and we will be getting a new first baseman, so you also have to consider that it could vary on that aspect. Um, but for the moment being, that's how this is going to be. But yeah, I think we are going to simulate until the arbitration. I did already offer all arbitration contracts to everybody. Even players we didn't really see this year, like Nick Soil, Nick Senzel. This is the last year of arbitration for Tyler Magic, and I'm nervous for him because he's been good, but he's also been really bad, so I'm worried what we might get this year. But yeah, we offered arbitration to everybody. We offered contracts to everybody. I do want to look real quick and just make sure I have everyone on the 40 man who needs to be on the 40 man. Because I don't want anyone to get took in the World 5 draft. That's another way we could get a first baseman is a World 5 draft. Yeah, I think we have everyone on the 40 man who needs to be on it as of the moment. Tim Anderson chooses a Giants offer for $15 million over 3 years and no longer extending the Reds offer. Would you like to stop simulating? Yes, I would. That sucks, you know. I was really hoping we could get him. But there are other players out there who are good versus lefties, and we can get one of them as well. I actually considered Suarez, and we could have moved him to first. I did consider him, bring him back to Cincinnati's, but I decided not to. You know, if we really can't find someone and he's still in the market, we might go for him. But as of the moment, we're not. Geo's a good option. Probably wouldn't cost that much. About 6 mil. But Evan Longoria, he's going down super fast. You know, maybe Kyle Farmer, bring him back to Cincinnati. You know, there's a lot of players we might be bringing back to Cincinnati. And Kyle Farmer could be one of them, possibly. One name that's kind of sticking out to me is Christian. Up and down career. Coming off a solid year, he can play all across the infield plus the outfield. So if a player is ever doing bad versus righties or anything, we can throw him in. You know, he has good stats overall. The only thing I'm worried about is the low discipline, just like when it comes to Luis Garcia. But I'm willing to give him that 8.5 he wants for a year to kind of be that utility man for us. I want to give him that opportunity. And he can play, you know, versus lefties. Oh, at second base. But yeah, so let's simulate a little bit. Get to where when the players don't accept arbitration or don't get offered arbitration. Excuse me. And now let's take a look at free agency. For the people who might not have gotten offered arbitration. And it doesn't really look like Seth Brown, Daniel Vogelback, Dom Smith. I mean, I'm okay with signing him kind of just as a depth piece. I'll offer you 2 mil. If you take it, you take it. There's not really anyone that's sticking out. That sucks. You know, I was really, like I told you guys, really depending on this. But we can look around and see if maybe there's someone else in a different position who could play first base for us. Willie Adames, if you were here last year, you know this name. It looks like he ain't been as good this year as he was last year. But as of the moment, it doesn't really look like there's any first basemen that are really sticking out, or anyone that can play first base that's really sticking out to me. And that sucks. Ooh, Lane Thomas. But the only concern with Lane Thomas is he's only good versus lefties, and we don't really need an outfielder for lefties. Do need an outfielder for righties. The only name that's really sticking out is Lane Thomas and Luis Gonzalez. Um, he's got good enough attributes that he could play center field, and it looks like he's coming off a decent year with St. Louis. So I think I'm okay with giving him that opportunity. Give him a little 2-year deal, and he accepts. It's low risk, high reward. You feel me? And he accepts it, even if he's not in the majors next year. It's only 800,000, so it's not a huge deal. But we do still need a first baseman. So let's see if we can find one that's actually reasonable, because it's not like we can just go out and trade for Pete Alonso after they just signed him to an extension. That's not very realistic. Reese Costin, someone we considered signing, and maybe we should have. Still has 2 years left on his deal. Regressing a little bit. Jose Miranda could be a arm. That's someone we traded for in the Kansas City Royal franchise toward the end of the year. He only played it for lefties. It looks like he's had a decent career so far. He actually had a negative WAR last year, and he only broke even in WAR this year. It's because of his on-base percentage. Low on-base percentage, but home runs, and stuff like that. He could definitely play first base for lefties and righties, and especially lefties. He crushes lefties. I mean, yeah, I think that's the main arm that's really sticking out to me is Jose Miranda. And Reese Hoskins. But I think Jose Miranda would be the better trade. Probably not defensively when it comes to first base. Not that either of them are necessarily gold glovers, but Reese Hoskins definitely is the better defender. Um, but just in the aspect of having him for the next 4 years, you know. But the question is, do we even have the pieces to necessarily trade for him? Um, the Twins need a mix of things. They need some outfield help and some infield help. Yeah. So there's a multitude of ways we could go. You know, um, Josh Lowe could be a piece we trade. Maybe Jay Allen. You know, either of them by themselves get the deal done. I don't want to trade either of them though, because like I've said, I do want to just give Josh Lowe a year in the minors to really develop his numbers. I think the biggest problem with him is obviously his numbers versus lefties aren't the best, but that's why we only play him versus righties. And I think he could be a great platoon player if he got his plate discipline up, and saw the ball better, learned how to walk, stuff like that. Because his discipline and his clutches, they're decent. But his vision is what I think is really holding him back. So I think a year in the minors could really do him some help in that aspect. And Christian signed. That's perfect. So I want to help them, and I want a first baseman. They have a first baseman I can have, and I have stuff they need. They need me. I need them. So I want to throw Cyrus in, just kind of as a bonus piece. He's not going to be the main part of this trade, but 18 years old. He's raw, but he has potential to be better. But I think this is a trade that Nove may be going to.
Um, maybe. He definitely gets the trade done, but I also think it could be Xavier Edwards. Someone we got in a trade with Miami, or we might have signed in the offseason. I'm not really sure. But that gives them a second baseman to look forward to who's almost MLB ready, and gives us a first baseman who is MLB ready. So I think this is a pretty fair deal. They're getting a raw 18-year-old who could be good, and a second baseman who's about ready for the majors, and we're getting a first baseman that is ready for the majors and could be a real good hitter for our team. So that's going to be our first baseman. And now we have Christian, which is great. And I think he kind of fits just right here. Kind of that lower power bat that can hit. We have the hitters at the beginning who get on base and the big bats and stuff. And I think he's a good bat at the end of it to kind of have some power or get that good hit. And we have some all around. I think this is just a very well even team. I really do. I think it's very even in the aspect of hitters who have power and hitters who are just really good at contact hitting and getting on base. I think this is a team that's built for success. Four lefties, four righties, and a switch hitter. It's like perfectly even in a way. And he will move up versus lefties because he does have a lot of power versus lefties. So if anything, probably actually do this. Yeah, probably like that. I really don't want three lefties in a row though. That's something I don't want. Well, actually, he's playing versus lefties, and I think we're actually gonna have him lead off and not Sam. I think that's just the better option, especially with his low vision. Um, he'll lead off versus lefties, and yeah, I think this is a really good way to have it. And Dominic Smith, like I've said, can be that depth piece for first base. Not that we necessarily need one, but we could. I mean, it doesn't hurt. He could develop into something nice and maybe in September get called up and play good. He's done good before on the Mets. It's crazy how long he's been in the league and he only has 4 MLB service time. It's wild because he debuted in 2017 and like he's played every single year, just not really like full time. Um, but he could be something. He could be. Um, so and I did look at the starters and consider maybe signing for one. Mike Soroka stood out to me, only being 27 years old and being so good. He stood out to me. Pablo Lopez stood out to me. Um, Nathan Eovaldi stood out to me as like kind of just that veteran piece that could be a good 1 year and done type of dude. But like I said, I think we just have to have faith in our core and the young parts of this team because I think they can be good. I think Hunter Green's shown that he's good. He just has to show that he can be good consistently. Same with Nick Lodolo. Had a great 2022. Not the best 2023. Had a very, very solid 24, but got injured. So he didn't get as many innings as he could have. Jose Suarez, someone we traded for at the beginning of the year, did really solid for us. Graham Ashcraft, someone we still have a lot of team control over.
It's been very solid for us last year and this year. You know, even a 4 ERA, I'm okay with that if you're in that 4 or 5 spot, you know. I'm not tripping about that. I think that's good, and I think Paul has a very good potential. The main thing I'm worried about when it comes to him is his pitching clutch and just the fact that he only has 3 pitches. Typically, that doesn't work out for a starter. It has so far. I mean, it has for Hunter Green. But not every pitcher is like that, and most starters have at least full 4 pitches. But you know, he can still be great, and I do have faith. And you know, we just gotta have faith in the bullpen, who uh, actually was one of the best bullpens in all of major leagues, other than the blown saves by Alexis Diaz. You know, who's shown he can be good, but once again, thing with him is his pitching clutch. It's high, but it doesn't actually. It's not high. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you know, he actually had a negative WAR this year. We've been over this. You know, so I think we just have to have faith in this young team. You know, Gavin Lux has showed us what he can do. So did Tyler Stevenson. You know, that's why he got that 6-year, $60 million deal, and that's why he's on the team till he's 32. You know, Jake Furley has shown us how good he can be. Someone I've considered, you know, um, extending. Eloy, we've seen him be good, not on this team, not yet, but we have, and he could also be someone that maybe one day gets an extension for the team, you know, because even when the deal's over, he's only going to be 29. Ian Happ's been great. That was kind of our big signing in the first off season, which necessarily wasn't a big signing. It was only, you know, $21.9 million for 3 years. But it was fairly cheap, but we got a really, really good hitter out of it, and I think it was a really good deal. You know, he's been playing great. Jose Miranda, we'll see what he can do in the Reds uniform. Hopefully he can keep doing what he's been doing. Luis Garcia, he's one of the people I am more worried about because you've seen he hasn't necessarily been great, and this is the first time in his career, you know, he's had a high 700s OPS, which is good for a second baseman like himself. And, you know, he walked at a higher percentage this year, and, you know, he just did really good this year, and I'm hoping he can repeat it, but I'm not gonna be surprised if he doesn't, if you know what I mean. But that's also why we have Christian. You know, if he doesn't necessarily do good versus righties, we can always throw Christian in. And if, you know, Luis Garcia is doing good and Christian's doing bad, we can throw him in versus lefties. And Jonathan India's been good. The main thing with him is consistency. You know, he got benched the first year, part of it. Um, because he just wasn't playing good. Picked it up a lot toward the end of the year. And this past year, he was just injured most of the year. So, you know, we want to get a full season out of him and really see what he can do and hopefully get a season like his rookie year when he won Rookie of the Year and, you know, get those 20 home runs, that 270 average, that 380 on base, you know. And Josh Lowe, you know, he's probably going to be going down in the minors. But that's enough talking about that. We're going to go ahead and move on in the free agency. Munoz for Brett Beatty and Matt Allen. Wow. That is a one down move for sure, considering how good Brett Beatty is. Max Fried to San Diego, Brendan to the Cardinals, Danny to the Rockies, Glaber to the Phillies. The Marlins want to offer us a trade. The Marlins are offering us Josiah Gray, which I wouldn't be against getting this arm. His attributes look okay. His career has been eh. Who do they want? They can't be serious, right? They can't, like, this is too good of a trade. They can't be serious. Right? 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 I mean, they do have a lot of starters, so they don't really necessarily need him. And they might need the center field depth. They do need the center field depth. I think we could take this trade, and Josiah Gray could be our fifth or our bullpen arm reliever. And we could trade Tony.
We got Luis. Cool. We could trade Tony or Tyler. Tyler's arm, I'm not against trading because he's on his last year of arbitration, anyways. Tony's been really good, so I'm gonna take this trade. Now we just gotta kind of figure out who gets the starting position and who doesn't. My mind is just instantly telling me to do this, but Paul in the long relief. But I think he's earned the chance to get that starting spot. And Josiah Gray will probably start in the bullpen. He's just had an up and down career, so I think it's the safer move to start him in the bullpen. And we can always throw him on the mound if we need to and make him a starter. I think Tony will probably take Tyler's spot, and Tyler will probably get traded. Or we might trade Tony and Tyler for a righty for a lefty, because we should probably have more than one lefty. But I'm surprised by that trade for sure. I think they fleeced themselves. The Cubs want Ian Happ back. They're offering us, who is he? Third base. You know, um, and starting pitcher. I think obviously we have to take this trade. No, I'm playing. No, we're not. We're not taking this trade at all. That's a terrible trade. I don't want that trade at all. We got the draft lottery here. We'll see if we move up, if we move down. Where are we going? And we say at 20, which is cool. The Yankees move up 10 spots to first place. The Twins, with a positive record, have the second overall pick. That's crazy. The Rockies move down. Wow, that's really surprised me. Um, that's insane. We're gonna keep simming the off season. Go to the Rule 5 draft. We'll see. Maybe there's a lefty in here we can take. Anthony K. Been pretty bad. Is 30 years old. Hasn't had the best of careers. Paul Fry, not happening. Anthony K. I'd be lying if I said he wasn't sticking out to me. He has high hits per nine. His walk per nine is a little low. I don't think we're gonna do it though. He does have nice stamina, so that's good. But I don't think. I think we could get a better trade out of trying to find a lefty than going for him. Yeah, and there's just really not anyone who's sticking out to me, so I'm just gonna go ahead and skip that pick. Did I say Nick Sogard? Oh, not the right one. And we'll get out of that World 5 draft. And we'll Pablo Lopez to the Orioles. Wow, Orioles, big money spending. We'll be changing this up to where are you? There you are. And we'll still stay right here, but he'll be playing versus righties. And hopefully he can have a similar year. On base percentage is more important to me than average, so I'm not really tripping about that. We did get Dom Smith. But yeah, I want to kind of look for a lefty arm. So let's go to player search, relievers, lefties. Yeah, no, don't want that contract. He's been good, but no, he hasn't been good. He's actually coming off a really bad year. No. Jose Alvarado throws really hard, coming off of 2 really rough years, and has a bad contract I don't want. Already took one of Cleveland's pitchers. Garrett Crochet. He's struggled. He has struggled a lot. still has a really bright future ahead of him with whatever team he's on. You know, could be someone we go after, but at the same time, we already did take Eloy. You know, Andrew Chafin coming off two really good years back to back. Definitely could be someone we go after. Definitely. Um, Aaron Ashby, he's on the Brewers. You know, I would trade for him, but he's on the Brewers, and I don't really want to trade within division. I try to avoid it most of the time, you know, but sometimes I'm okay with it. John King's coming off a really good year. Brett Martin, not coming off the best of years. Not coming off a bad one necessarily either. Zach Thompson. No. Josh Taylor, someone y'all might recognize from last year's franchise. I think Brett Martin's gonna be the case, and we were just talking about how we don't want to trade within division, but you know, I think he's someone we just, you know, need to go after, and you know, we talked about doing this trade, and I think Tony's been really good for us. You know, we're trading a 27-year-old reliever who's been great for us and a 34-year-old reliever who's been good for us, at least good for this past year, for a lefty with this year and next year and been inconsistent. I think this is a high risk, high reward type of thing because Tony's been great for us every year he's been here. Um, Other than 22, but you got to take that with a grain of salt. It was only 19 innings. You know, so we are, I feel like, giving up a lot. You know, I feel like we're giving up a lot. Not even a little bit. I feel like we're giving up a lot. But I think the reward is outweighs the risk. And so I'm okay with taking this risk, and I think I'm okay with making this deal. And having that lefty in the bullpen, I think it's going to be good. You know, now this is the fun part where we got to send everyone down. And I think this is a really young team who has a lot of potential in front of them. And, you know, could be something great. I think a lot of them just kind of need to develop, you know. And I think if they're given the time to develop, a lot of the prospects will be really good players. Um, and I think we already have a lot of really good players on the team. I do. You know, I'm very excited for this team. I'm scared of some of these players' inconsistency. Not gonna lie. I am. But I am excited for what they can do. And what they have done. I know what they can do. And that excites me. We should trade a left fielder. Because we have a lot. I'll probably trade Nick. Just try to get a center field depth piece. Well, he's actually going to be playing center. So we should just make him a center fielder. So is Luis, but I don't want to change his position. I think that's good though. This is gonna be our team. Platooning is definitely a big one on this team. Three people are regularly getting platooned, but I'm very excited to see what this year is coming because I feel like we've only made the team better. I feel like we really did make the team better, especially picking up Eloy. I feel like that was a great trade. I really am happy with that trade a lot. Getting that righty power bat, I just think was a great move. And, Jose Miranda, I'm very excited for too. I'm hoping he has a similar year to last year. The only difference is I'm just hoping he walks a bit more, you know. But we'll see what he does. And, I'm excited to see what Jonathan India can do. I think he's kind of a undercard, wild card. I think by now a lot of people are know he's a good player, but don't think he's a great one. And I want him to show them that he is great. And we signed him to this deal. I want people to think we ripped him off. You know what I mean? Like we signed this dude for 5 years for $17.5 million. I want people to think we ripped him off. Luis Gonzalez been trying to find his footing everywhere he's been. You know, hopefully Cincinnati's can be the place where he really blows up and has that like, oh my God, he really came out of nowhere type of year. You know, because he hasn't had it yet. He had a solid year last year, but he hasn't had that like where did he had a negative WAR last year, which I think is crazy. I think it's crazy that he had a negative WAR. Unless he like made a bunch of errors, he made 6 errors. That's not even a lot. Like it's crazy to me that he had a negative WAR last year because his on base was almost 350. So that surprises me. TJ Fradel, I'm very excited for. I'm really hoping he can have a good year because I look at his attributes and I'm like, he could be really good. So I'm hoping he shows us that. Sam Huff, he's a backup catcher. If I can get 250, 260 average and a 315 to 340 on base, I'll be happy with him. You know, um, traded for him last year because we just really needed a backup catcher. I'm hoping Sam Haggerty has a good year. We signed him for 3 years, 3.9 mil. And he was eh, eh last year. He did have a positive WAR somehow. He can play a lot of positions. I think that's why. But he's kind of just that lefty crusher for us. Nick Senzel once again can play a lot of positions. Not gonna be great, but he can play a lot of positions, and that's why I'm okay. Because people just need days off. And Christian Arroyo, I do feel like we're doing him a little dirty by playing him only versus lefties. But I think he's just gonna thrive more in that situation. As far as our pitchers go, it's kind of a fight for fourth and fifth place. Because I do have faith in Graham Ashcraft. I really do. I do think he's gonna have another good year. But at the same time, he is only C potential, so he could completely fall off. And Paul, with him only being 20, he could have a great year or he could have a terrible one, and that's why we got Jose Gray, Josiah Gray, in a fleece. And I think he is ready for the majors. I think he's had struggles, but I think he is ready. I think there's a few things he needs to figure out, but I think when he's good, he's great, and I know he can be great. And I think our bullpen's gonna be great. I think we have a lot of very, very good arms and a lot of people coming off of very good years with us and from other teams. We got two of these arms last year. AJ Puck and Eli Morgan. And these are two arms that I'm really looking forward to. See how they do as a red for the full year. Alexis Diaz, I am worried about. Not gonna lie. Um, and maybe if he doesn't put it together after this year, he might be out the door. I'm not afraid to trade him. I don't want to trade him because I think he's a great pitcher. I just really need him to do what he did in 2022 and not what he did in 24. You know, um, 1.3 WHIP is ridiculous. Lucas Sims has been like our best bullpen arm since the beginning. We didn't know at the beginning of this franchise if he was going to be great, and he blew our pants off. And then he was like, "Oh, you thought that was good? Watch this." And he really fucked us up with the two ERA in 100 innings and 108 strikeouts. So I love this pitcher and what he's become, and I'm hoping he's going to continue to be a great pitcher as a closer, making some money. I think looking at the budget, we have a really healthy budget that if we want to next year or the year after, we can sign a big free agent, which it's been shown that the Reds are not afraid to do. Or we could trade, for someone who might be on a big contract, or trade for someone and then re-sign them on a big contract, because like we're only paying 88 mil of salary this year, and that's crazy. Our highest paid player is making $10 million. Our second highest paid player is a bench bat. Like that's crazy. But I'm really happy with these deals, and I'm really happy with the money that these people are making. Um, I'm just happy in that aspect of having them on those low contracts and those cheap contracts. And let's look at some extensions. I've talked about wanting to extend Hunter Green, and I do want to. The only thing I'm nervous about is that he's gonna play like this. I'm gonna regret extending him. Nick Lodolo is another. I want them to be both Cincinnati Reds for life. You feel me? Like, but I just don't think that's realistic. For like a 7-year deal, he wants 18 million, and for like a 7-year deal, he wants 15 million, and I just don't think it's realistic to try to sign both of them to a big extension like that. And then we got Jose, who we have next year, who also wants like 12 million. So these could be players we bring all of them back, or they could be players that we only bring one back. It really just depends on how the dice roll. And we just got to kind of see how it turns out. Gavin Lux, another player we could extend, which is a player I'm really interested in extending. I don't want to extend him yet, but I do want to extend him eventually. Like I said, all players I've shown interest in extending. We will go ahead and extend Ellie De La Cruz, just 2 years, 750, 2 years. And a lot of these players still have arbitration, so I'm not really tripping on those. Um, you know, so I'm excited. I think this team has a very bright future ahead of them, and I think I have faith that they can put it together and show. I do want to go ahead and sign Hunter Green to an extension, though. Him being 25, I think somewhere around a 7 or 8 year deal extension would be good. You could do 10 years, but I think 7 years is just a bit better. So let's get that number risen. And then as of next year, he'll be our highest paid player on the team. And I'm hoping he, accepts this deal for, we'll just bump it up to 120. 7 years, $120 million, 17.1 million dollars a year. I do want to backload it. Just make it where we're not really worrying. Actually, I think I want to front load it because we don't have a lot of expensive contracts right now. So as of next year, kind of get expensive, and while he's in this prime, we'll be paying the most. And then as he gets a little bit worse, and kind of regressed, he's not playing as he's not getting paid as much. And he accepts it. That's what you love to see. And as of next year, Hunter Green will be the highest paid player on the team, and we'll have him until he is 32. Um, so let me know what you guys think in the comments. Give me your opinions. Was there a player I really should have traded, and got something back in return? Was there a player you think I should have signed instead of a player I did sign, or, just to, like, have that player? Like, what do you think? As of the moment, we're ranked 18th. I do think we're gonna play above that. I'm gonna be honest. The Cardinals and Cubs are ranked high, but I would be lying if I said I didn't think we could take this division, because honestly, I do. I think we can take this division, and I think we will take the division. I honestly do. I think we'll take the division, and I won't find it surprising. I really won't. Um, the Cardinals, the biggest thing they have on us is starters, in my opinion. They have some good starters, but I think we can beat them, and I think we can have, a great year, and I, could see us going to the postseason and being something great. So, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you leave a like, you subscribe, let me know if you think I overpaid someone. Let me know if you think I didn't pay someone enough. Say the things you think. Thank you so much for watching this. Remember to leave a like and subscribe, and y'all have a good one.